In the wing, the servo goes in like so. You see there's two little notches here for each of the ears on the servo. And I always put the label of the servo up, so later if you wanted to look and see what kind of servos are in it, you could see it instead of having it reversed. Then it has to be taken out to see it. And when you put that in there like that, you'll notice that it's a little bit too long. So we have to trim some foam away, just a small little bit, so the servo will fit in there. I use a number 11 X-Acto knife. Use a sharp one when you're cutting foam. Otherwise, it will damage the foam. Be careful not to cut farther than you have to. This is foam, it's not balsa. And unless you've got some cyano glue or special foam glue, it's not easy to repair. There we go. What you hear in the background is a new 14.8 volt battery charging for this little plane. That should fit in there. Yes, it does. And that will, the cable will run along that little gap like that. So it lies flat, and of course this part goes into the body later. Okay, let's get the control arm for the servo done. I'll turn this around this way so you'll have a different view here. And we have the control arm, which goes on the servo like that and sticks up. And this little doohickey right here goes onto it, and then that other end, the ball swivel, fastens onto the control surface of the wing. I usually keep these little control arms on the outside, being a fairly hard-barked modeler. A lot of hard bark on me. If you put it in this way and it did go down and you had to use the bottom hole, it will jam on the servo right there. So keep it on the outside. And this hole is going to have to be trimmed, I believe, a little bit. I typically go about the third hole in from the end of a control arm that has this many holes in it. To start, and then if you have to adjust it and you can't take up the adjustment with the flight controller and the radio later, then you can always move it. This has to be fairly free moving. It doesn't have to, don't make it loose, but have it free flowing pretty good. So we got that part there, and then before you put this part on here on the wing, you always put this on first, because if you put this on first, then you've got to work with that. It doesn't work too good. So then you just stick this little bolt through here, through the ball swivel, and that goes through there like that. Then you put the little nut on, which is a locking nut, and it has a rubber on the outside. You'll see if you look on the inside, on the outside of the nut, you'll see like a little rubber that seals it. And the other end that goes towards the inside is more open. Put that on there like that. Now I'm going to tighten that just a little bit by hand. I'll do the final tightening later when I'm sure everything is okay. And then this part goes on to the servo. So what we're going to need to do is get the hot glue gun, get a little bit of glue to put in there. excuse me, so we can, so I'll go get the hot glue gun now. Before you put the servo in the wing, it's better to be sure that the servo is centered. Sometimes the servo will be off of center. It won't be right in the middle, so just connect your radio. I have a Taranis X7 here. It doesn't have to be the same radio that's going in the plane as long as the servo is centered digitally. And connect your, to any channel, connect the servo up. Be sure your receiver's powered, and then just move the, you see the little arm going back and forth there, sticking out of the servo, the shaft. When the stick is in the middle, it's now centered. So now we got it centered. Shut the radio
Receiver
off.
still connected.
Unpower the receiver. Now we can glue that servo in there. So take the hot gun, put a little bit of glue in there like so. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put a little bit of glue maybe on the top part here. I don't like to put glue on the inside because it's going to then be very difficult to get it out. So I'm not a hot glue expert. It's the first time I use hot glue, by the way. I typically up to this point, I've made big models. So hot glue is not a good option. Okay, so let's put that now on the centered servo arm. Be sure it's at 90 degrees to the body of the servo. In other words, this way with the body of the servo. Put the little screw into it that comes for that purpose. And my trusty screwdriver should be here someplace. Just give me a second here. It fell on the floor. Okay, we'll screw this into position. Be sure the screw is all the way down. It'll stop when it gets to the bottom. And you notice the arm moved a little bit. Not a good idea to move a servo arm when it's not powered. It should be driven by the radio only. Okay, so then be sure the cable is in that little gap. I want to be sure that's not getting consternated there. There we go. Like so. Shove the servo down firmly. A little bit of hot glue in here. A little bit here. A little bit on each arm. And then just smooth that down a little bit so the airflow is not too disturbed around those glue points. And it's all set. One wing ready to go. The other wing is done exactly the same. The only difference is, and I've got that one started, is it goes in, of course, the other way. And once we get the other one done, we'll be ready to put those on the body. Since we didn't put the hatch on in session 1, let's do that now. Just take that little hatch, which is a louvered hatch to provide air to the escape here at the back. Take the little black screws that are wood screws in the bag of screws, just so that we don't go poking around at the escape when we're doing the rest of the work on the model. It's better to have it covered. one is not exactly cooperating here. Why not? Let's see. Okay, if you put it in the right place, it'll go. There we go. And I won't bore you with the other two, but that's what has to be done at the back. Now, for the stabilizer, elevator, whatever you might want to call them, they call them fins that go at the back of the aircraft. They go right in here like this. This is the left one, and that's the right one. Now, they say to glue those in. I'm going to be transporting this plane outside of North America probably, so I'm going to make them so that they can be removable. And all we need to do is put a little wood dowel. You can get that at any hardware store. Just a small little 3/16 or whatever size dowel you want to use. And I'm going to make a hole right in here. And I'm going to make a hole in there, and then I'll be able to just insert that fin like that and then take it out when I need to. If you don't like the stability at the back, the pin should hold it, but if you don't, just take a small little straight pin and shove it through each of them right there. It's not going to add any significant weight to it. So let me get the drill. I got the hole drilled in here, you can see, right in through there. Make it horizontal to the wing. And then I got a hole drilled in this one in about probably an inch. You could do less, it depends how well you glue it. Then you just measure along here, and we're going to have to cut this one off about an inch. Snap that off. Oh, I didn't break it right, so we'll do that again. I guess it's going to have to be cut off outside of that, otherwise it's going to give the foam a hard time. So we'll cut this one off. That is hard dowel. I think I've had that with me for, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 years. It's mature. Break that off, and then just take a little bit of sandpaper, like so, and round out the edge of the dowel that is going to be inserted here so that it doesn't catch on the foam. Give it a little bit of a round off like that. It'll be easier on the fingers like that too. And that one goes in there, and we'll glue it out about that length. And that one goes in like that. And that's going to hold just fine. So I have to glue these. So I'll get the hot glue gun and we'll do that. All right, let's put a little bit of hot glue in here. And put that dowel in there like that. There we go. Maybe a little more here. Like so. Just to be sure it's held in position. And after it's dry, we'll just poke it in there and see how it fits. Okay, we got the dowel in the leading edge of that little fin. We got a hole in there. It's slightly downwards. You want to be able to, when you drill it too, you're going to have to drill it a little bit downwards unless you get a way back here with a very long drill. But being down a little bit is going to give it easier purchase, so you can slide it in like that. And what I'm going to do, this is not going to come off. These planes don't back up. It's not going to happen that way. But, you know, possibly in a big wind, you could get some lifting force on the back like that, possibly. That's in good. So I just take a small straight pin, very small like that, stick it right through the back of the leading edge and down into the aircraft like that. That's very solid, not going to move. In fact, 2 pins like that would do just fine. Like I said before, they say to glue this in. I'm going to transport it. I don't want to damage the fins, so I'm going to have this removable. Very easy to use that way. Okay, now we're going to have a look at the camera. I'll remove this so I'm not going to damage the fins. So the camera is going to be installed up here at the front, like so. And I have a little fox ear here that I may use. You can use any camera you like. I don't use high def. I use just a straight standard analog. I'm not taking any videos or posting any fancy videos. I just want to be able to see where I'm going in my goggles. This is going to have to be cut a little bit here. It's a little bit too narrow, so we'll take our X-Acto knife once more and just trim this out a little bit here, so the camera will fit down into that notch. Like that. And like that. And now there's a right side up here, so unless you want the camera to be upside down, you can flip it, I think, in software or firmware, but the plugs are usually the top of the camera, and the lettering will be red right side up. So that will fit right in there. We'll use a little bit of hot glue probably to do that as well. Now the cable they give in the package that I showed before in the last video, this guy right here, very well put together, because these cables fit right into these cameras. The typical FPV 3-wire plug that pushes right in there, nice and firm. It's always on the left side that I've seen. And then what we're going to do is we run this wire, just twist the end of it so you can get it through this hole, run this wire down through into the motor compartment, and when it comes out, just redirect it back through the top hole there. And if you look on the inside, you're going to see there's a gap all along the body here for wire placement. Very well designed. We're going to run 2 wires through there. We're going to run the camera wire, and we're also going to run the escape wire later from the flight controller. So just tuck that into that bottom recess like that all along. I would leave a little bit out here in case you want to remove the camera, because there's lots of cable. It'll go right back to the flight controller easily. And just tuck it all along in that crack in the body. You might use a little bit of tape on that. Just 1 second. A little bit of trusty Scotch tape to hold it in place while we push it along in that gap. There we go. And then just run it along that gap like that. And through the battery compartment and into the flight controller compartment. flight controller, radio, and VTX compartment, I guess we could call it. All three are going to be in there. The GPS, I haven't decided exactly yet where I'm going to put it. We'll do that in one of the next two videos. Okay, so you run that through there, and what you do is once you get this run, just hot glue it in place with a tiny little bit of hot glue so that it stays in place. I don't want to put any in there now because I haven't got the other wire, the escape wire, control wire from the flight controller. So this tape will come out and I'll just hot glue that in there after. There we go. This is the other end of it that's going to plug into the flight controller. And what we're going to do now is just solder a connector on there that will plug into the flight controller for the camera control. Okay, I have the wiring set up. I got a small pigtail from just a regular servo wire, red, white, and signal. I've got the wires that we just put through the body. I've got the heat shrinks put on each of the wires, so we'll just solder this together like so. I should have tinned that one a little bit more. Just a second. There we go. All right. There's the red one. I can pull the heat shrink up for that. And just give it a little bit of heat. I'm doing this so I don't accidentally break that little red wire off. I think my fingers are too big this morning. I always like to use bigger heat shrink than too small. Too small is a pain to get over the hump of the solder if you put a little bit too much solder, and you end up redoing the whole thing. Oh, that's the wrong way. That goes in here. There we go. Now we'll tin that one first. In fact, we'll tin both of them. And then wow, that is hot on the fingers. Like I said, you're not looking at a soldering master here by any means. And I need a new soldering iron. I really do need a new soldering iron. Okay. And then the signal wire. The red, of course, being the positive. The negative is the black one. And what we typically call the signal wire, or the one that gives the command in the cable, is the yellow or the white one. All right. There we go. Nope. Okay. Now that yellow heat shrink is exactly the right size. I have to get some more red and black because they are a little bit large, just a little bit large. But what I'll do, I'm going to put a bigger heat shrink right over that whole sleeve so that it's tidied up a little bit. I'll go get one. Okay, we'll put this bigger sleeve over the connector and down over these little wire doohickeys here. And we'll take a little bit of heat on that. Okay, so this is now ready to plug into the flight controller. And we'll see the flight controller should arrive today, I think, in the mail from China. It's a Speedy B. And that's it for the camera connection, except for the installation over here. And like I said earlier, it depends how you want to mount it. Some people actually use a little camera mount. There are screw holes in the camera where you can put little screws that come with the camera into a bracket. Some cameras even supply the bracket with it. And what you do is you just put the bracket down on each side right here. But usually I'll just use a little bit of glue and stick the camera right there. Now, if you're going to remove it and change different cameras, for different cameras, I would use a mounting bracket. It makes it much easier. Okay. That's it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Fly them like you own them.